Hello, welcome back to a Bello Betty video with special guest star. We have the king of Betty over here, #EMB with us, and he is going to help us go through the competitive guide to the mirror match. There is no one better. Join us here, hashtag, can you introduce yourself?
Well, of course. Hello, everyone. I am #EMB. You can call me Matt. I make YouTube videos on mainly Belo Betty. And as Barney Kong said, we're the two probably most experienced Belo Betty players out there. So, if anyone's going to do the mirror matchup, it should be us. And we've got an absolute banger for you today.
Absolutely. So we're going to go into our deck list that we used for the sister video over on EMB's channel. We may or may not have updated our list since then, but you just need to stay tuned for our channels to stay up to date with what our lists are. So yeah, if we can hop into those. We have my list, which I was running Tui Inazuma. If you're watching these, I hope you have some familiarity with the list, so I'll just go over the super tech options, which is 6 cost Sabo that I have in the list, which I'm running at a 1 of. I have 1 tension hormone, and I'm actually down to 2 uh, 4 cost Kumas in this list, bringing me down to 6 total 2K counters, which I mean, you'll have to just see how the list performs in the other video.
Yeah, then we have my list over here. This is the more trigger heavy build. Like the two options you have basically as Bello Betty, right? Is you're running either the utility one where you have more situational cards and more text, and then you're running either this one, which emphasis is more on trigger, where you're running things like Morley at 4 and you're running Hormone at 4. So even more cards that can just come out of your first life. But yeah, this list is
Yeah,
really
just
nothing special.
it's yeah. These are not. These are more meant to be like the options that we have available to us, not our like refined personal list, just to give you generic showings for what could come up in the mirror. Are you going to see a lot of the trigger version, or are you going to see more of the utility version? Which exactly what hashtag said or Matt said. So yeah, I think that it's time to get into what the tips for the mirror are. Here's the lessons that we learned throughout our games that we played with each other. They are that the stage is vitally important, what you mulligan for, and you want to have 2K counters in your hand. The stage, because you need to find the important pieces that you're looking for board control, and because you need to pitch bricks from your hand so that you have survivability in this hyper aggressive matchup.
Yeah, exactly.
Your
And
opponent is
I think it's worth mentioning too that your opponent is gonna like assume that you're running low on 2Ks because generally the lists are running low on 2Ks. So there is that threat of them always swinging like sixes at you. And if you don't have the 2Ks to back that up, you're gonna take way more hits than you're comfortable with, and then you're gonna be in an awkward position. So having stage to be able to search out those 2Ks is also incredibly powerful.
yeah, like in most games I prioritize having maybe 1 2K. In this matchup, like I'll keep as many as I can get. It's just and then have a bunch of little boosters and power reducers that drop on a consistent basis, as well as Kuma itself. Kuma can hit Kuma, Kuma can hit Raise Max and Betty, and then Lindbergh. Just your board control pieces are vitally important because it is so aggressive. If you spend all of your swings um, going after their board and they have crackback with standing characters, it can be really dicey depending on who gets the like last sequence of removal piece. So that's why stage is important, and that's why we stress finding Kuma and Lindbergh, because being able to be the more proactively controlling Betty player is probably going to result in the victory for you.
Yeah, I think it's very worth to mention as well that both Kuma and Lindbergh, in combination with any power reducer, it's like the entire core of the deck, right? You can hit Ivankov, you can hit Karasu, you can hit Lindbergh. So, like, if you're turn 2, right, if you're going second, you can cheat out Lindbergh off of your Ivankov, and then, like, next turn, when they start getting aggressive, Next turn it comes back to you. You can do like 5 cost Ivankov into a reducer to start controlling their board. Make sure you can live one more turn while still applying a bunch of pressure on your opponents.
Yeah, the thresholds that this deck hits just are great for dealing with this deck itself,
Exactly.
which is wonderful and terrible all at the same time.
Yeah.
We learned to not play Raise Max. The card is kind of a trap. It's -1 in hand. This is for the swinging purposes. So like early in the game, like if you need a power reducer, obviously don't hold Raise Max back because we say don't play Raise Max. But like if you're going first and you drop Raise Max, you go down to 4 in hand. The best thing your opponent can do then is just drop Kuma, and now you're at -1 in hand. You gave them value, and it's going to be a more difficult situation for you. So hold back your Raise Max. It's literally better to play nothing than to play out the Raise Max and have it die. I understand that if you play the Raise Max, it's demanding that they have the Kuma, but literally our first two lessons are find stage and have Kuma. So the consistency is really one of the main things that we are preaching here for like the early game board control. So the likelihood that they have Kuma should it should be a pretty high likelihood in your mind. So don't play Raise Max. Betty's totally fine because it's hand replacement and it can help you find the pieces that you need. Um, yeah. Do you have anything to add about Raise Max?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. It's the 1 cost 2k threshold that is just so weak, right? When it can hit by Kuma just off the bat, and then Lindbergh hits it. It gets hit by literally everything, and like you said, it's -1 in hand. Whereas Belo Betty is replaces itself and is incredibly powerful. So always play the Betty, obviously, but don't play Race Max, and you have to know your time to play it if you are gonna play it.
It's got to be basically in tandem with I am going to also kill something this turn with a 6 cost Sabo, uh, Lindbergh, or Kuma.
Exactly. You
It's the
basically
time that you
bottom
play
deck
it.
it on play, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an on play that it's basically like a 1 cost event because it is not staying on the board.
Yeah.
Pushing for lethal versus surviving a turn was this is just a basic One Piece card game concept. However, in this matchup, I feel like it's so apparent because of how aggressive it is and how small the hand size gets for this leader specifically. Like we never amass, very rarely do we amass a large hand size. So you can usually do on like the 8 Don turn, you can assess like the game's probably going to end next turn or soon after that. So can I live? And if I can live, I should go about maneuvering it that way because the likelihood that I can go for lethal increases every turn. So if I can position myself better, I'll be able to win next turn more likely than I can win this turn with the right pressure and plan. Obviously, if you just do nothing, that's not going to be the case. But pushing for lethal, you should push for lethal if you just obviously are dead on board on the crackback. There's nothing you can do about controlling their standing characters. You do not have the counter in hand, nor even like a blocker out of life will save you. But even then, don't count on triggers to save you. Counting on triggers to win you the game will lose you the game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning here too that pushing for lethal, that's one thing, but applying pressure by swinging at their leader and hoping that they take life is something you also need to be very careful with in this matchup, because generally if you look at board, right, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can live one more turn, I'll be fine, and then you start swinging at their leader in hopes to bring them down a little bit, and then they just trigger a card, and all of a sudden you are on the back end of a huge swing coming in, and all of a sudden they might have lethal, right? So when like before the turn that you push lethal, if you know you're gonna have them next turn either way, then don't swing at their life. Like swing maybe once just to bring them down so you safely have them, but like don't swing more than you have to if you are worried that a trigger is gonna win them the game.
which a lot of triggers that we run can win you the game. Like
Hmm.
a Lindbergh trigger off of life can, with one power reducer, get rid of every blocker that we have to offer, which Blockers are actually the next point that we wanted to bring up, and it is the way that you can survive a turn. Like establishing your 3-cost Karasu or your 6-cost Koala, even sometimes just as a vanilla no on play, are going to be the ways that you can manipulate surviving a turn. Obviously, if they have a Lindbergh on board, it's a completely different story. But the blockers that you have access to can greatly enhance your ability to survive against specifically Belo Betty. Belo Betty has nothing that is on play that will be able to remove Koala in an effective manner. Um,
Yeah, I think we're going a bit into the
like
second
without
line here of
overcommitment.
power of blockers, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was referring to.
yeah,
Is the power
exactly.
of
So
blockers in this matchup.
that you can just extend the turn with the help of a blocker, it's going to be super important. And yeah, obviously you don't want them to accidentally trigger a Lindbergh and then you're cooked right on the clapback. So that is something you need to be careful of. But just blockers in general in the matchup, right? If you need to extend for one more turn, which you will need, right? You will be in that spot where that you're like, okay, I'm probably cooked next turn. What can I do to extend for one more turn? And just dropping a blocker there, it's gonna put you in so much a better of a better spot because you're demanding them to either have removal, and even if they have removal, they're expending resources to deal with that blocker, which might damage their chances of actually having lethal.
Exactly, exactly. And like they're also going to be in a position where if you drop a blocker and they don't have confirmed lethal, now you might be triggering the lethal swing to crack back at them. So it might even just ultimately prevent a lot of aggression coming your way from a leader like Betty. Blocker in this matchup has a ridiculous amount of power. But I think those are the key lessons that we learned about how to manipulate and maneuver this matchup. And the next thing that unless you want to talk about anything else,
No,
we
I
have
think we're good.
the cards that you can tech in for the mirror. These are the options that will make your build of have a better time into the mirror potentially, because there are some options here that are going to be personal preference, obviously, but all of these cards we found have value. Um, or more value in this matchup than maybe in most other matchups.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the two trigger cards that a lot of these are going to be trigger cards because of how aggressive the deck is. But the first two that we're going to talk about are both Hormone and Morley. My personal favorite of these two is Hormone. The trigger for these off of every single life, and both of them are worthwhile cards to consider and have in your deck because of that. Because of the consistency of just being able to drop the body. They both cost 3 Don. Um, however, I think that Hormone, these in my opinion, you play going first, and I'd rather play Hormone going first on my 3 Don turn and leaving up 3 Don, as if it discourages my opponent from swinging entirely. I don't view that as a negative because I can then just pitch Hormone the next turn with, say, Stage or something of that nature because I've already passed the utility point for it. Um, but it's not a dead card in hand because of leader ability and because of Stage. Whereas with Morley, it's it's fairly removable, and I don't think playing Morley off of your first life is really like advantageous for you. It's basically a vanilla at that point of the game of a 3/5.
Yeah, it's definitely comparable to like if you compare it to Lindbergh or Hormone, right? It's definitely the worst one of the triggers. As Hormone can bring out cards that completely shake up the game, and Lindbergh coming out of first life or something like that, it's gonna be like almost an automatic win from there. Um, and Morley, in comparison, doesn't really do anything except be a body.
Exactly. Which a body isn't bad. We like that, but we have better options. So um, I'm in my list. I wasn't running it. I'm still not running it. Spoiler, but it is definitely a card worth considering for the mirror because it is just a confirmed guaranteed body, and sometimes that's that's all the difference you need.
Yeah.
Or Kuma, the 2-drop Kuma. This is like maybe the most important card in the matchup. Your power reducers are nice and they are important, but uh, they are enabling this card. But this card also answers the 1 cost and the 2 costs of the deck pretty effectively, just without any power reducers. So it's a more versatile card. Um, Never a bad top deck, never a bad draw. Usually you're capable of getting the ability off in this matchup simply because there are so many cards that are within the range and we're running power reducers to even increase the number of that. I think it's maybe the best card in the matchup.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think just like having this as an option always, right? Even if you're like sitting on an Ivankov on board, right? Cheating out Akuma, like if it's still good, right? At least if you spent your Dawn elsewhere, uh, cheating out Akuma to just
Mhm.
pop a thing, like the fact that that still feels good says so much about this card. That is a two cost 2k body, and it can still sometimes feel better than cheating out something else. And that just says so much about the power of this card.
Yeah, that is a really good way of it.
Mm.
That's it's great.
Yeah,
It's great, and the number of ways that you can get it out is great.
yeah,
6 cost Sabo, if you're gonna run it, it's basically just big Kuma that can get rid of 2 things. Um, it really couples well like 7 and 8 Don because of the power reducers that you can use with it, as opposed to like your 6 Don turn, like playing it on curve, which would feel better, but getting rid of with 1 power reducer, you can get rid of a 4 cost and a 1 or 2 cost, and it's a fantastic tempo piece for you because sometimes getting rid of that much standing opponent pressure and then swinging into the rested bodies on board allows you to just basically control the entire board of your opponent. And if you clear your opponent's board while simultaneously establishing a 6 cost, you're going to put yourself in a good position to win the game. This
yeah.
card, personally, I've considered bringing it up to 2, but I would never. Never is a strong word. I don't see a situation in which I would bring this card up past 2.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very situational card, and at the end of the day, it's a counterless card as well. So you have to be careful with how many you're putting in the deck. And I think 2 is definitely the max amount I put as well. Uh, but it's just yeah, it's very strong, especially if your opponent is trying to go very wide with low cost characters. Like imagine they go like uh they have a Betty out already or something, and then they find another one, and now they have 2 Bettys out, or a Betty and Akuma. Just being able to pop those on curve removes a lot of pressure off of you. Because there are a bunch of Betty players that play like that. That instead of doing like the normal like Ivan Karasu play, instead go like Koala Kuma or something, and then like they're establishing a very wide board very fast, um, and having 6 cost Sabo to be able to deal with that better than other cards can, uh, it could be really strong.
Personal favorite of mine, but definitely tech, and that's why it's in the tech choices and not just an established card in the deck. 3 cost Karasu and 4 cost Kuma are particularly strong in these hyper aggressive 4 life mirrors. Or, yeah, mirrors. They trigger so much more regularly than in basically every other matchup. So your 4 cost Kumas actually do feel good. 3 cost Karasus feel amazing in this matchup. I don't know, just definitely if you want to tech for these matchups, I would say run 4 copies of both of these cards.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with their added benefits of already being a blocker and a 2K, they already have so much value for this matchup. And then the just additional trigger that we did the math right. It's on the 3rd hit taken. They are now live, uh, which is like that's so early in the game, right? That's gonna be on your like 2nd or 3rd turn. It's so fast, and being able to have those triggers so fast, it's just incredibly
Yeah.
powerful. As it's a free trigger, unlike Hormone, Morley, and Lindbergh, that force you to discard a card. 3 cost Karasu and Kuma come out for free, which is definitely a point of interest. Like it definitely matters. Comes up more often than you think.
Yeah, I wish we counted how many times it came up in the other games, but I'm sure it's come up
Oh, it's definitely
at
come
least
up.
twice, maybe
Yeah.
3 times. The last one, were you running this card?
I
Neither of
was
us were running
not.
this card,
I've
right?
never run this card, but it's still
Yeah.
something worth talking about.
Yes, it is absolutely worth talking about. It is basically an additional Kuma minus getting a body, but the trade-off for not getting that body is you do remove your opponent's stage. And obviously, the stage was one of the incredibly important things that we stressed about having in this matchup. So, mitigating your opponent's ability to have that is definitely something worth considering, well as just KOing a standing unit for additional pressure or to mitigate additional pressure. It's it's getting rid of consistency for your opponent while simultaneously removing pressure. So there's a lot of good things to say about this card that neither of us are running.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it definitely has value, right? And it's situational, but a card that's situational that is still a rev army, like we have because we cycle with stage and we trash with leader effect, we can afford to run these type of cards. And at the end of the day, this is actually a card that has a trigger as well, right? So it's never a complete brick
Is it
in your
activate
deck.
main or draw this card?
Activate main.
Nice. That's pretty
It's
good.
yeah, it's pretty good. Like triggering this, popping one other thing, and their stage for free. That's so fine. That's so fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just a generally good card. It's obviously a bit more of a personal preference there, but like we said, if you're able to basically pseudo increase the amount of two cost Kumas you have in your deck, that's good, right? Because like Kumas is one of the strongest cards in the matchup, and Dragon's Breath would be like just a step below, but like a little bit more situational.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's the last point, dude.
Yeah. So I would say that these are the tech choices that we specifically called out for the mirror because we looked at the cards and we saw these as having impactful play lines that actually mattered. The lessons that we learned are we went through the learning process in the sister video over on #EMB's channel. That's going to be posted at around the same time as this. So if you haven't seen that one, go check that out. And go ahead and like, subscribe, leave a comment. Go subscribe to #'s channel, which you probably already are. Honestly, if you're here, you're probably subscribed to his channel. So yeah, any last words from you, #? If not,
I just want to say thank you for watching.
yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and everyone have a wonderful day.